What's up, guys? Welcome to the weekly watch list. This is your host, Jeff Kohler, aka Option Addict, over at www.tradingaddicts.com. Market analysis time. You know, the S&P's done a really good job of, after a breakout, been staying up, accepting higher prices, consolidating. These are all natural tendencies you'll see after a bullish breakout. The bears have had really nothing here recently. They haven't really been able to take prices lower. I will give them the fact that they had a nice little bull trap here, and I know there was a lot of money trapped into that little breakout. So if they're able to pull them back from here, applause, great job. But you know, the way things are standing up here, looks to me like this is setting up to go higher. Now, some of our market indicators that we follow, like take copper for example, have already predicted this long ago. Copper's now at a new 52-week high. And even crude oil. You know, we've talked about crude oil prices lately, right? You guys remember on the Option Addict blog, we talk about the big divergence between copper and crude. We went back historically, went over several divergences in which copper prices were strong, oil prices were weak. What was the end result? A sharp, bullish upside move in oil. What happened last week? Boom! Oil prices catching up, doing exactly what we thought they would do. In fact, coming into our price target right here, getting close to that $82 level in crude that we thought we'd see prices run to and stabilize at. So that's been another good signal for equities, right? So basically, all systems are go, with the exception of financials. But as of Friday, there were a couple of things. I mean, Thursday and Friday, there was some money, there was some rotation into financials. Whether or not it sticks, that's yet to be seen. The BKX has got to open strong here on Monday. It's at least got to get outside of this bearish channel. We've talked about the higher low, which is typically a signal that the channel is going to give way. Anytime you set up a higher low inside of a range like this, you're usually good for a pop, right? And we saw stocks last week like Citigroup breaking out of its consolidation range, big volume, looking real strong. We even saw Goldman trading really well when the market was soft. I actually like the setup here. I actually got long some calls in case financials are going to go, which in terms of buy the dip setups, financials are going to be the best looking item out there. The problem is that they're financials though. No one wants to trade them. No one wants to play around with them. So I've got a couple of positions there, right? Goldman and Regions Financial. And if they break, great. I think Goldman ought to at least try to attempt that 200-day moving average again this week, which should be a pretty decent lift for my calls. But I also like the longer term setup here. When you go to the 2-year chart, you'll see that it's at a pretty critical level of support. Voila. So hard not to play Goldman here just based on the technical setup. So I think if you see financials come into alignment, if financials start showing a little bit of strength, I could care less about tech right now. I'd like tech to sell off, cool down, just chill out for a little while, consolidate some of their gains. But if financials step up, then we're going to see higher equity prices this week. So in essence, I'd be looking for a breakout if financials want to play ball this week. This week's list of picks, it's a little bit smaller than last week's. Last week, in terms of success ratio, had a lot of really good trades set up there. September, for the record, has been the best month we've had as a group in 2 years. I mean, it was phenomenal. Everything was working, firing on all cylinders. So we're coming off a really hot month. We're looking to extend that. So I've got some good plays here this week. We'll start off with the buy the dips, sell the rips, and $10 darling candidates. Take a look. Now let's get into some price patterns. This week it's a smaller number, but doesn't mean they're of any less quality. So with the breakout in oil, there are a couple energy names that I like here today. In fact, SU, which was a stock we added to the watch list last week, take a look. This thing's looking to break out on pretty heavy volume, increased volume for the last few days. A lot of buying into this consolidation pattern here. So to me, it looks like it's just getting ready to break out. So does HP. We're talking very similar characteristics, elevated volume here. This one finished a little bit soft on Friday, but that's even better when you're coming into this looking to buy a dip maybe come Monday. So HP is another one that looks pretty good. Over into coal. So Peabody has been my absolute favorite name in coal. And as of Friday, Peabody breaking out, reaching new highs. So typically I'm on the relative strength candidate. I'm usually trying to encourage that, go with the name that's trading better, go to the one that's going to new highs. but it's hard to pass up this setup in Massey. Good, tight consolidation pattern, and if coal stocks stay pretty active this week, look for a breakout in Massey that probably takes it up about maybe 12% total. I'm planning somewhere in the vicinity of about 34 to 35. So we're talking, maybe a $3 to $4 movement here in Massey this upcoming week if it does break. I've got some calls there as a disclaimer, but it still hasn't broken yet, so I don't think it's too late. The other name I like here this week is HMIN, and got a classic cup and handle here, especially when you dial it down into the 30-minute chart. As you can see, this is exactly what the setup should look like. Last week, I actually bought the dip through here, bought some calls. When it rejected that breakdown, I got out, I took the profit, but I've been watching it sit here and develop, and it's doing exactly what it should. So from that failed breakout attempt, prices just kind of pulled back, flagged a little bit, basically formed the handle of this cup and handle pattern. And then on Monday, prices popped outside of that. And if you look at the one-day chart, they consolidated and just coiled up all day. So if equities open up higher tomorrow, watch this HMIN, because I think this could be a pretty big ripping breakout candidate. I did add some calls on Friday just in case that does happen this week, so just as a disclaimer. But watch for that to see new highs. Another trade I took last week, which I'm not in, was Tesla. I bought the dip near the lower end of this range, rode it up for a little bit. As prices started to roll over on Friday, I quickly got out for basically a pretty small gain, but I like where prices have stabilized. So this week, I'd like to see them turn back up and try to break outside of this range. And if they do, you should see a pretty sharp move in Tesla, at least up to about $25 is kind of what I'm thinking. So if it doesn't hold this 20.5 level, I'm not interested. Just leave it alone. Don't even bother with it. But if it does start to hold here and turn back up, look for another breakout attempt and then look for 25 as a price objective. I also like ARM, which is a name we've been following for a little while. The breakout of this little consolidation pattern happened last week. It's been flagging ever since. If the flag gives way, you're going to see 17, and if not, a breakout from there. So ARM looks pretty good to me. XTEX is another name that we've been following for quite a while. Love the consolidation pattern. Love the volume, the accumulation that came in on basically a range-bound day. So if prices open up a little bit higher tomorrow, look for a move next week. That probably takes you up close to 14, likely by the end of the week. Last but not least is this little Volcano Corp. And this has become my favorite setup over the years, this rounded bottom, basically like cup, rounded bottom shape. Breakouts here that I've followed have been pretty accurate, they're pretty predictable. They usually hold, especially when there's elevated volume. So watch for this to see a pretty sharp move if it can stay up here north of 25. I think that would be a pretty interesting stock to watch this week. For the most part, it's usually pretty thin, but lately it's been seeing a lot of volume. So keep an eye on that. And that's it, guys. Like I said, we're coming off a phenomenal month here for the month of September, and we've automated a lot of things. We've got a lot of new indicators that we're using, and as far as the watch list is concerned, we'll be adding a lot of new names throughout the week. That's what we typically do. So if you want to find what those are, come visit us over at tradingaddicts.com. As always, $5 trial for 5 days. If you don't like it after 5 days, I'll give you your $5 back. In the meantime, this has been The Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome week.